straight to them first, so they have to know what's happening to them. So now, yeah, there's a massive world, and this is the 20 minutes each, but that allows everybody 6 minutes interview, so it means so yeah, so just play by ears.
Welcome, ladies and gents. My name is Tanil, and I'm one of the business development managers for APT. And today you are in for quite a treat. We are delving into a hot topic that everybody loves to talk about, including myself, and that is food, wine, and beer. Now, we do have a couple of experts lined up today who are really going to dazzle you with their wisdom, their knowledge, their experience, and perhaps even their good looks. Welcome Shane and Connor from St. Hugo Wines. Now, APT and St. Hugo have an amazing partnership together. We get to visit your gorgeous vineyard on a couple of our tours for next year. Now, Shane, I'd love to start with you first. Tell us about your role at St. Hugo Wines.
Thanks, Danielle. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. To all the folks out there, my name is Shane Gibbons. I'm the Tourism and Events Manager for St. Hugo. So my role comprises working with lovely tour operators like APT to curate some amazing experience for our APT guests, and also create some amazing events in our St. Hugo space. Keeps me busy, but I definitely need to speak to someone that's equally or even more important than me. It's Connor Rawkins, who's our front of house manager, and his team delivers all these amazing experiences that we pitch to our guests.
Connor, tell us about your role at St. Hugo.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Sunil. Yes, it's an honour to be in the position that I am, the front of house manager. So basically, the day-to-day running of the beautiful brand home that we have here in the Barossa. I've been here since we opened it back in 2016. It's a fantastic spot to work.
Amazing. And tell us about the history, Connor, of St. Hugo.
Yeah, St. Hugo has a really fascinating history, to be honest. It's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, winemaking family in the Barossa. It's actually the Grant family. And it was basically established back in 1850. The site that we're at is actually the original building as well that's been renovated, that you can see here. And we launched the St. Hugo label as a standalone brand in 1980. And since then, it has been a fantastic icon in the industry as far as wine goes, particularly known for our Cabernet Sauvignon, has really put us on the mark in terms of the wine game. So,
amazing history. And Shane, tell us about your award-winning wines that you have there.
Yeah, as Connor mentioned, the wine roots go back to literally the 1847, 1850s with the original founders, Gustav Gramp and his father Johan Gramp. But the first St. Hugo vintage was started in 1980, and it was a Coonawarra Cab Sav. And then since 1980, the Coonawarra Cab Sav by St. Hugo has won gold medals. 40 vintages on it, still winning gold medals each and every year. We also have amazing varietals that we've also introduced since the Cab Sav, which is Shiraz Cab. We do Grenache blends. And more recently, we were very red focused as a brand, but we've delved into the white wine market. And in 2017, we introduced our wonderful St. Hugo Riesling, as well as our St. Hugo Chardonnay. And just most recently, in the 2022 Halliday Companion Guide, we've been rated once again as a 5-star winery, and we had 5 of our wines been rated 90 points or more by Halliday. And this is all attributed to our amazing winemaker, Peter Munro, who is at the helm of the St. Hugo Wines at the moment.
And when tasting wine, Shane, what should we be looking out for other than we just love the taste of it?
Well, Tanil, I just have a little wine here. Just to be honest, wine can be very subjective, and we love people to have their own opinions and thoughts. But there is a little systematic way we normally go through with our guests when tasting wine, and I'll take you through the few steps. And but in the end, it's all about your enjoyment. So the first step is probably having a look at the wine, look at the color, the appearance, and this can tell you a bit about the wine. I can tell you about the age of the wine, and when you look at the color and appearance, you look at the intensity. Is it a darker red? Is it a lighter red? And that can also give you a hint on the actual varietal. Darker reds normally refer to Shiraz or Cab Sav. Some lighter reds can be blends like Grenache, Mataro, Sangiovese. So that's a little, a little hint on the appearance. Once again, the next step would probably be to give it a nice swirl, and that releases the oxygen as well as the aromas. And after a swirl, you can take a lovely sniff and see what primary or secondary aromas you get. It could be strawberries, it could be a red fruit, it could be plum, blackberry. So that also is determined by the style of the wine. The next step, which is my favorite, is going in and having a little taste of the wine.
How's it taste?
That is fantastic.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I couldn't do the swirl because I think my glass is too full, but I can do the sip. Yeah.
You can do the sip. I want you to spill on yourself. And literally, tasting the wine, what characteristics, do you taste on your palate? And the last part of the wine is the finish. And typically a wine, a good, outstanding quality wine has a medium to long finish. And that just means how long that really good taste of the wine lingers on your palate.
Thank you for educating us. Amazing. Now, Connor, this is a really hard-hitting question. It's about food pairing. Now, when we're eating our fish and our chicken, should we be pairing this with white wine? And when we're eating our red meat, should we be drinking red wine? What are the rules around this?
I'm glad you asked. It's probably the focal point of what we do here at the brand home. I think the way I lead that question most of the time is more of a guidance than a rule. There should never be a rule when it comes to the protein of the dish and the wine you've got it paired with. It is actually coming down to the flavors that you've got around the protein in the dish. So we can do some really creative things and break the rule of seafood with white wine and red meat with red wine. You actually can get really fun with it in terms of, having a Chardonnay with a fatty piece of red meat. If you've got the right flavors to complement the Chardonnay, then there's no, rule broken there. It is more so in the general scheme, the Chardonnay will generally pair with seafood better. So, for us, it's about looking at the flavors first and then peeling it back to what texture will go with the wine the best. But there's a lot to it. It's definitely not the old handbook from 100 years ago. So, yeah.
I love that answer. And I've always wanted to know the answer to this question. The shape of the glass, does that actually impact the wine experience?
Incredibly. We have a experience here at the brand home called the Riedel experience, and that's basically all we look at for an hour with you and with guests to show how different they can be. I've got some examples here just to show you some different shapes, including Shane's slightly used red wine Shiraz glass. But for us, glassware is incredibly important. It can be anything in terms of the base. We don't want the glass tipping over. The stem, the shape and the size of the bowl, and as well as the rim. So how big that rim is can dictate basically what impact the wine can have from a sensory experience on the palate and on the nose. So yes, very important. Absolutely.
Amazing. And Shano, tell us about the kitchen garden experience that APT guests get to visit on our private jet air tour, the Icons of Australia.
The kitchen garden experience is a very important part of the San Hugo brand. The connection between wine and food is central at San Hugo's philosophy. And what we do with the kitchen garden is it's a real special treat because the guests get to obviously meet our executive chef, walk through the beautiful vineyards too. We have an on-site kitchen garden, and you can see in the photo here he's getting some fresh produce. But we're very, very privileged to be able to say that most of the produce we use in our dishes that we serve in our restaurant come directly from this garden. So we know exactly how it's grown. We and in this kitchen garden walk and experience, the executive chef will tell you about our biodynamic as well as organic processes. We want to be as sustainable as possible. So everything we do is about being sustainable, being organic, being biodynamic, and using what we have around us to ensure that we have the best seasonal produce. We're also very lucky because we have a seasonal menu. So we often use what grows best in that season to be included in our menu. So our guests, when coming back to us, every few months, they can expect a different menu and be excited about something new that's been picked from our garden and then been used in our kitchen right here on site.
You just made me hungry. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Your wine knowledge is incredible. I'm going to take get you to take a little bit of a breather while we chat to our next guest, who is John from Spinifex Brewery. Now, I actually caught up with John a couple of days ago to talk all things beer. I must apologise in advance that the sound quality is not perfect because he is in a remote location in WA, but let's take a look at the clip. Welcome, John. Now, APT and Spinifex Brewery have an amazing partnership together. We actually sell your beers at our Kimberley lodges. And I know both of our companies have a real love for the outback and a real passion for giving back to the local communities there as well. Now, John, I'd love to hear about your role at Spinifex Brewery and also the history of the company as well.
My role is I'm product development brewer. Some people have said brewing druid. That's a whole other interesting concept. I have an interesting past. I suppose it comes from being an amateur botanist from my parents. We travelled fairly widely and amongst all the national parks of Western Australia and got an insight into all of the fascinating biodiversity that is Western Australia. Spinifex was gelled as an idea from one of the Aboriginal directors, Michael Little, when he was working in the Pilbara, talking to some mates, suggesting that why don't we make beer with native ingredients, and he was considering that Spinifex would be a good idea because it grows wild and it's a grain that grows native in Australia. Probably not the best grain in the world. It's a fairly small grain and it tastes a bit more like salt and vinegar chips than probably something you want to put in beer. But that was the germ of the idea. Through a mutual friend of mine and his, we got together and decided that why don't we start making beers with native botanicals? So fundamentally we did. We gave it a try and we've been making with different versions of myrtle and wattle seeds and sorts, where we use some gubbinge from the Kimberley and the Northern Territory for an alcoholic ginger beer, and I use the seeds for other processes as well to put in some other beers. They're amazing. So the idea too was to actually make sure that to make some sort of a legacy for young Indigenous people of Australia to be proud of their native biodiversity and keep them on land and on country so that they could be proud of what they did. So the idea was then gelled that we would use Indigenous suppliers for our Indigenous ingredients. So for those wattle seeds and those other herbs that we use, we would use native gatherers or growers or even processors to do that. So there's a burgeoning new industry of Aboriginal food products for our Indigenous ingredients.
And how is the beer connected to the local area, John?
Well, locally, we say for instance, we're Western Australian, proud to be Western Australian. So say for instance, I've got a wattle seed beer here, lovely little can. It's coloured after the colour of ochre or the colour of the wattle seed, actually. So we source the wattle seed from a small community south of Perth in an area called Rowlands out of Bunbury. It's grown on a farm that was taken back from the Catholic Church by an Indigenous group of people who'd formerly been unwilling inhabitants. They were stolen generation kids who were living on the Catholic mission. So they bought it back. Their purpose is the same as ours. They want to make it a happy place again. They want to bring it as a place for Indigenous to develop industry and culture. So they grow the particular wattle that was brought to Western Australia about 35 years ago by the Ag Department from the eastern states. We take most of their supply. We roast and process it, and it's good for a number of things. Obviously, I use it in the beer, and we can use it for other things as well, in foods and all sorts. So it's a wonderful product.
Tell us about your award-winning ginger beer that I've heard so much about.
our ginger beer is based on my childhood ginger beers my mum used to make. They were lovely and strong and full of ginger, not too sweet, and really yummy. And sadly, well, or positively, all ginger beers that mums used to make all were a little bit alcoholic, otherwise they didn't get fizz. But the reality is that what we've got is a nice gingery ginger beer, low in sugar, and it's also got some gelatin wax infused in it, which gives some sort of nectary, melon flavours that come through. Really very pleasant. It's a very nice beer.
Suddenly I feel like a beer, John. Now, John, in your expert opinion, what is your favourite food and beer combination?
Ooh, favourite food and beer? Oh, heavens.
Yeah.
Look, I reckon the wattle seed goes really well with a very slow cooked brisket that's probably had a bit of roasted wattle seed as a rub on the outside. Let me just go there and say that's probably something that has worked for me in the past, even though in saying that, if you want to then go on the dessert side, my mum used to make, that's obviously a long time ago, lemonade scones. So I make ginger beer scones. So I make scones out of my ginger beer, which gets the ginger flavour and the gelatin wax flavour into a lovely fluffy white scone with a nice little bit of fig jam and some cream. Very nice.
Delicious. Well, thank you so much, John. You are a wealth of information. You certainly know your beer. And thank you for making us all beer experts today.
My Italian. Thanks for having us on board.
My pleasure. Well, we're going to take some questions from the audience now. So if anyone has any comments or questions, send them through for Shane and Connor and John. Let's take a look to see if any have popped up for us already. Oh, here we are. What APT tours can I visit St. Hugo Wines on? Oh, great question. I think this one might be for me, Shane and Connor. So we have a private jet air tour that is departing next year, 16 days of fun, Melbourne return. And the beauty of traveling on a private jet, other than you feel like a bit of a rock star, is that we travel vast distances in a short amount of time. So there's more time exploring the destination than traveling, which is what we all want. We also have a couple of cruises visiting St. Hugo's. So we have an 8-day, which is Adelaide return, and we also have a 17-day itinerary, Adelaide to Perth. So if anyone would like more information on these tours, you can contact your local travel agent or you can contact APT. Let's see if we have another question, maybe for Shane or Connor. What does vintage happen? Or when does vintage happen? From Grace. Fantastic question, Grace. Connor or Shane? I think that one might be for you.
Connor.
So vintage down in the Barossa usually can kick off February months through to March, April, and where we source a lot of our fruit from down in the Coonawarra as well. A little bit later, just because it's a little bit of a cooler region compared to where we are with the Mediterranean climate. So you're looking at more of that late April for our Cabernet harvesting and things like that. So definitely a beautiful time of year because everything's green and flourishing, and we're picking fantastic grapes. So.
Good time. Let's see if we have another question from the audience. From Ian. Yum. What food and wine do we get on the APT tour when we go to St. Hugo Wines? What food?
Yeah, we have a. It sort of goes back to what I mentioned before about our menus being seasonal. So we've just launched a beautiful spring menu just on the beginning of September this year. And what we do is we really pair the food to that season, what's growing well, and what we have that's coming up. So a couple of the dishes that we have on our menu for spring currently is like we have lamb ribs, we have a beautiful chicken with corn puree, edamame and mushrooms. We have a kingfish tartare. We do a beautiful vegetarian gnocchi with citrus and butter. So that's just a few options of what we have right now. But the best part about it is that, if your clients visit when it's winter or autumn, our menu might change to be the best available menu for that particular season. So it's always exciting. It's always generous. It's always super tasty. And, we always have telling Connor and his team and myself after their lunch experience, how much they enjoyed it, and they can't wait to come back.
I'm thinking I might need my stretchy pants when I come. Just eat. Sounds amazing.
Chef, one of his rules, as Connor knows, is he never wants anyone to leave San Hugo hungry.
I don't think we will, by the sounds of it. Well, thank you so much we have one more question. What's your favourite wine, Shane and Connor? Oh, that's a great question. What's your favourite wine? Can you choose one?
Can I pick two? Can I be allowed two?
Oh, I'll let you.
Red. I think for me, it's always the Coonawarra Cabernet Sauvignon, because that's our trademark. The 2016 vintage in particular right now is absolutely delicious. And probably the one I've got right here, the Eden Valley Chardonnay. So one of the new ones for St. Hugo in the white wine region. It's a fantastic drinking Chardonnay.
Oh, I love a Chardonnay. What taste the aftertaste? Is it like a buttery aftertaste with that one, or what can we taste with that Chardonnay?
Compare Chardonnay to popcorn, like a toasty bread, popcorny kind of flavor that comes from the oak that Chardonnay will spend. So a lot of whites don't go into oak, and that's what you get out of Chardonnay. It's a really buttery, popcorny kind of flavor for it. So delicious.
Delicious. And Shane?
Connor sort of stole part of my answer because even before I started working here, their cab sauv is literally it's one of the best, and it's no accident that it wins a gold medal award each year since it started the vintage in 1980. It is just a phenomenal, beautiful expression of what Coonawarra cab should be. But on saying that, we have some amazing Barossa Shiraz, and one of our Barossa Shiraz just won Best Barossa Shiraz 2019 from a sub-region called Greenock, and that's also become one of my favorites. For me, nice Shiraz or Cab Sav, fire, and some great food is that's just me in a nutshell. I love that during winter or anytime it's a bit cooler.
Sounds perfect to me. Okay, well, we might leave the questions there. Thank you so much to John, Shane and Connor. You have been a wealth of information. You certainly know your wine and your beer. You've brought so much value to today. And to everyone watching, I hope you have enjoyed this episode on food, wine and beer. Now, if you'd like to stay up to date with future episodes, be sure to go to the APT Facebook and like it. Until next time, take care, everyone. Or should we say, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.